didn't have any extra pinball machines laying down for repair. Now, Kevin here, he offered his gauntlet game, and I abruptly said no. So basically what I got today is, this is a Bally MPU. How many of y'all have Bally games? Anybody? And y'all familiar with the acid damage?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, today I'm just going to touch base and show you how to remedy the acid damage and pretty much save the board. If you want to pass that around, you can see the acid damage on it. I also want to talk about flickering displays. I mean, that's pretty simple. You look at the back of your Bally displays, your Williams displays, you'll see that the solder's cracked on the back side of the header pins, and it's a real easy fix. So if you got any flickering in your game, pass that around. We'll fix that. Talk about the strength of your flipper rebuild kit. How many people have rebuilt flippers in here? Everybody? Exactly. It's the heart and soul of your game. If you have weak flippers, you got no game. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And of course, if there's any specific questions, just matter of fact, why don't we start with that? Anybody got any specific problems they can't remedy right now? Nothing? Y'all are easy.
I got a no fear. I've never had a transformer. Usually if a transformer goes bad, I've seen them just melt down. This one looks great, everything, but it's supposed to be producing 18 volts AC, and it's throwing out about 70 volts AC on an 18 volt line. Normally if it was like 30, I wouldn't worry about it, but 70 we're getting.
Now are you sure you got a good ground? You're on the transformer ground and not the high voltage ground or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
I got the transformer out of the game and it still produces that much without anything hooked up to it. I've never just, you ever seen one do they just, normally when they're bad, they're bad.
Right,
I've never
they usually go open or they short to a direct ground and melt.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that before.
But I'm assuming that when I'm supposed to be 18 volts and I'm hitting 70, that's not very good on my board. I keep blowing the F12 fuse.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It would kind of seem logical on the secondary winding of it if some of that laminate were to melt away, it's going to change, the number of turns would go down, which would make the voltage go up. So that would be logical.
Yeah, if you have an internal short that's on that specific winding, you wouldn't see it.
Right.
And it would increase your
So,
voltage.
I mean, because that's like a $250 part if you can find one. So I'm thinking about just resisting it down to step down the voltage.
I wouldn't do that because then you're just going to put extra load on it, and eventually it's going to fail.
There's nowhere to repair it. I might as well just get another one.
Exactly.
And you can do dual power, so you can get an 18 volt transformer, just a secondary.
That's true too. I mean, if the 18 volts is
that's all it runs is that one. Place on the board.
Once I don't know if the output.
It's a high voltage.
See what the amp rating is, and then you can put a external power supply on it.
Just for that.
And those are only like $45.
Sure. Yeah, a lot cheaper.
I mean, just a raw transformer is probably only 10.
I just have never seen one that was
failed
bad
like
that didn't just.
Yeah, I haven't ever seen one that just outputs more voltage than what it's designed to do. Any one leg.
Only thing I could figure is the guy that I'm working on for bought it like that, so it could have came. I'm even thinking it could have came out of a different. Because a lot of those transformers look alike and they're not the right.
Wired for a
European.
Right. And they didn't change all the pins correctly. Now that's a possibility.
I need to look at that. That's
I would look at that first. That's a good point, because everything overseas is 240 volts.
Yeah.
Gets over here, 110. So you got to make sure your pins are correct. Anybody else? Nothing specific? Dim display? Switch matrix errors? Nothing? Man, y'all are easy. Okay. Basically what we're going to do here is we're going to cut this battery off. Now typically I like to put charging capacitor on there. And you can get those from 2Bits or Marco or anybody like that. Today I don't have one, of course. Candy? Anybody want a piece of candy? Okay, we got alcohol, a little vinegar, sandpaper, most important. Here are snips here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut this battery off. I like to leave it a little long because that acid gets in there. It's hard to get that clip off without pulling all the trace off.
What were you gonna do with the capacitor before you cut it?
Before I cut what?
You said you were looking for a charging capacitor.
Yeah, a charging capacitor. They mount straight to the
Oh,
board.
like charge in a capacitor. I'm sorry, I
Exactly.
misunderstood what you said.
No, that's all right. It basically charges up, drops down, charges up, drops down. And that'll maintain the same 1.5 volts that you get from this without destroying your board. Acid is rough on this. Now actually this is a working board. Believe it or not, this board still works. This is a customer's board that I'm repairing. And I told him that I could probably save the board, but he was more interested in buying a new one so that it would be robust forever. So got him a Ultimate MPU. Basically I'm using 150, and you want to sand this entire area down. Now if you look closely, some of the acid is run up underneath the traces on the 5501 chip. You definitely want to replace that. So we'll replace that too while we're here. I use header pins for that, which I have somewhere right here. Machine pins. Y'all probably already know about that. This is an indispensable tool, of course. So we're going to pull this chip off. Now you don't really have to be too gentle with the sandpaper. I like to get a little rough on it myself because you want to cut it down so that there's no acid traces. You just get in there and you sand the shit out. Yep, that's a technical term. Now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the copper that's below all the acid, okay? Now if you're not familiar with the board and you got to take out a bunch of components, you're going to want to label it because you're going to strip off all the silk screen, okay? So basically we're just going to do this one corner here. I'm going to need some napkins. I'll be right back.
Here, I got it.
Paper towels? No, I need some paper towels.
Those are clean.
That'll work. That's not going to be enough. Give me some paper towels, would you? All right. Now you can see it's beautiful under there. All it takes is a little sanding. Okay? Now the idea for the vinegar is to counteract the acid from continuing to grow. It will grow. So we want to douse the entire thing, the whole area, soak it with a wet rag, dipped in vinegar for about 10 minutes. And that usually takes care of it. Of course, if you sand it all out. Come on in. Let's get it real liberal. Doesn't take much to get down to the copper trace. Typically the acid will only run on the surface. Thank you. You can see that? Then you would take your vinegar. It's just household vinegar right here. It neutralizes acid. You lay it on here. You soak it up. You let that sit for about 10 minutes, and we'll let that sit. Now, I'm not going to do the whole board. I mean, as a demonstration what to do. All right, so we're through with that for a second. Anybody see the cracked header pins on here? Easy enough to fix. It's your solder. How many of y'all are proficient with solder? Everybody?
Well,
Proficient?
I think I'm pretty good, yeah.
All right.
Average.
So you know that to properly solder, you always apply the heat to the largest portion of the trace first, and then apply the solder. So, basically, a little 5-minute job. Having your tongue out really helps the situation.
Michael Jordan.
That's it. What's nice about the HAAG is that if you get a little too much on there, you just give it a little whoop,
Yeah.
it sucks it right off.
So you're just going over all of those?
Exactly. Basically, you're just...
So you're using that as a soldering gun as well?
That's exactly right. Now, you don't want to use it for components like chips or anything like that because it gets a little too hot. Now, you can dial it down. Trust me, I've used it in a cinch before. It'll do both.
What temperature would you normally want to solder?
This one's running, I think it's 180.
Celsius.
Yeah, C.
But in Fahrenheit, like when you're working around chips, what temperature do you use?
That's a good question. It's about 400. I think it's about 400.
Durable. I mean, you can about, you can go up 700 probably, so it'll be safe.
It's amazing how much heat those chips can take.
What's a safe standard temperature?
They pretty much tell you to stick around 600 or so.
And just like that, it's ready to go back in your game. 5 minutes, boom, you're done. You don't have to worry about flickering displays. Now, if you read Marvin's site, he'll tell you to pull all the chips off this thing and sandblast it. Which is, depends on how bad the
That appeals to
acid
me.
damage is. That appeals to you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Flipper technology. Anybody? Any volunteers? Anybody? What causes your flipper to be weak?
And the stroke switch.
End of stroke switch, EOS. EOS is right here. It's the one with the two smallest wires on it. If it's dirty, misaligned, or just crapped out, replace it. I don't even try to sand them down anymore. I don't even try to clean them anymore. They're cheap. Replace them. They'll save your coils. Also, you'll see the housing plastic, which the flipper throat sticks through. If that has any wear in it, replace it. They're 99 cents. Of course, you always have to have good rubbers. Everybody, you gotta have good rubbers. I prefer black myself, but brand new. Yeah. What else? Questions? Anything?
Can you explain why the end of stroke switch would make the flipper weak? I understand if say a coil sleeve is going down.
Okay. Your coil has, hang on a second, let me show you. Your coil has two coils inside of a single coil.
Right, but if this is messed up, then that means the high voltage one is going to be firing instead of the low. Would that make it more powerful?
No, the high voltage goes through the end of stroke switch. And that's what causes the coil to pull in initially.
stroke switch breaks, it just goes through the low power.
Exactly. That allows you to hold
So
it
this
without
is
burning.
acting as like a resistor of sorts.
A switch. It's acting like a switch. It's turning off the high voltage.
But when it's pitted, it reduces the current flow.
100%.
Okay, that makes sense. So you advise replacing it and not just say, using a file or
Exactly. They're cheap enough. If you enjoy pinball like I do, you want strong flippers. It's the first thing I do on all my games when I get them. Brand new coils, brand new flippers, coil sleeves, the whole shebang. $49, you get the whole shebang from Marco. Take 20 minutes, replace it, you're done.
I know some games, the end of stroke is on or off, right?
Correct. Data East is on.
So,
There's other games that are like that too, so
but the Williams one, it breaks the connection.
correct. Valley also breaks the connection. There's some, like Twilight Zone, that they don't have end of stroke switches. It's all opto, or it's no, they have a transistor ports in them. Okay. What else? Any questions? We've got this all done now, so it's been soaking. Now what you want to do is you want to take a little alcohol. I like alcohol. Oh, not that kind of.
Woo!
Basically, you want to wash it and get all the vinegar off of there. It just gives it a nice clean surface when you go to reflow it. Now typically I don't reflow. And the reason is because why do I want to trap any acid inside the trace? Because it's still going to eat it. So if I don't reflow it, I can see when every 6 months when I change out the my rubbers or whatever, I do a little maintenance on it. I always check. I look in there and see if there's any growth, because you will see it immediately on the copper. You will not see it on when it's on the solder.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you guys want to see that, we do that too. So basically, it's nice and shiny. That's what your goal is. Your goal is to achieve this on every bit that has acid damage. Okay? Now we're going to replace this chip here, just so I don't have to do it at home. And that's where this comes in. I mean, you just slip it on there, sucks it right up. And what you don't want to do on these is pull a trace, so you don't want to stay. Basically, I don't really apply the heat tip to the trace itself. I apply it to the pin, and I try to stay above the trace, because it will suck off a trace in about 3 seconds. So you got to be real careful. Safety glasses. Next year, I promise I'll bring a pinball in and we'll work on it. I'm thinking maybe we can get like you guys can send me some questions or some trouble, like your question, and then I can maybe demonstrate or have something prepared to be right up that alley. 'Cause I just don't know what your level of skill is. I know my level of skill is not very good, so I'm sure y'all are above me. All right. Little screwdriver, a little pressure on it. Now what you don't want to do is pull off a trace. So you want to be real careful. Most people use a magnifying glass. Too dumb to do that. How many people have soldered in chips before? All right. It's professionals in here. Well, y'all, I should be attending your class. What's the strangest, who's got a strange story that they've come across? I mean, everybody's got one. Working on a pinball machine. Anybody care to share?
When I got my gay 90s out of this town outside of Dallas, wouldn't start, and I used an arrow with the metal tip removed to reach down into the cabinet and trip one of the relays and start it up.
An arrow.
I keep the
There we
arrow
go.
nice and handy, and I stick it in there.
See, that's good.
Well, on that note, I picked up a pinball machine. It's been in storage for a long time. It's full of lizard eggs.
Wow. I have a story. One of
How
the
would you
best.
recognize a lizard egg?
I didn't, but my girlfriend did. Now, how she did it, I don't know. I don't know that I want to know.
One of the best best working pinball machines I ever found in a warehouse find had about this much hay inside of it.
Wow.
And it must have been a family of rats living in that thing. They did not chew on any of the wire. There were, nuts and stuff all in it. Everybody talks about, you gotta be careful when you plug a machine in. Forget that. Plug it in, blow something up, and then fix it, Well, I plugged that thing in and fired right up. I was like, look at this.
What model was that?
That was an F-14.
Wow.
that
I like
found.
that.
Yeah,
It's a nice game.
fun
I like those flashing strobe lights on it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that thing, I sold it to a guy. I told him, I said, man, there's something was living in this. He says, I'm going to put it on route. I don't really care. So I always love those guys. All right. I've got a couple of pins that didn't fully come out. And I want to demonstrate this because I want you to see how far this acid has climbed up this chip, man. It's amazing stuff. And basically what I've done is I've pulled the plastic housing off and the pins are exposed, so I can grab them with a little pair of pliers here. Alright. She's always wanted to talk to me. I don't know what that's about. There we go. Alright, if you pass that around, you can see how far up the traces. I mean, it's almost to the next chip up. So when you do this, you have to make sure that you get it all. Okay? I remember I was working on an EM machine one time, and every time you turned it on, you could play one player, no problem. And the guy's like, oh, I just turned it on one day and it just quit working. And I said, really? He says, yeah. So I got in there and I started looking at it. When you went to the second player, it would play one score and jump back to the first player. It would never allow you to score on the second player. I got in there and I was looking, I was going through contacts and checking stuff, and I was in there for about 2 hours trying to figure out what was going on with this. His daughter had taken her Barbie shoes and was sticking them in between the contacts.
Wow.
So on the number 2 player,
It wouldn't
there
make-
was a Barbie shoe stuck in the contact, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, there's the problem, sir. He's like, I dang it.
It took you 2 hours to think that the Barbie shoes were in stock.
2.5 actually.
And he's like, that's not mine.
Exactly. What else?
That, the 35s, I just want to add a couple of notes to what you were talking about. It's been my personal experience, if you've got one of those, or a -17, replace all those .10 header pins on it. If you've got a desoldering
Oh, yeah.
like that,
That's exactly
you'll
right.
get weird lamp problems and stuff. And
Got a whole tray of them.
yeah, and don't buy ones from Marco; they're too short.
That's exactly right.
I
I buy mine from Mauser.
got mine James
So,
Cole, did you?
exactly.
Another thing is if you got one, if you have a lot of acid damage on it, if you're really froggy and you want to fix it, the vias, the through hole, they can go bad too, and you can cheat and take like a resistor, run it through,
Solder both sides. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's a good
I
suggestion.
didn't understand.
They're called vias. They're on
It's a double.
circuit boards that have traces on both sides. They have to pass through.
Right.
It's just a hole. It's normally, and they corrode in between. So
Yeah.
you just take a leg of any component,
Oh,
run it through,
okay.
solder it on both sides, and just clip off the excess on both sides. You'll go through.
So
a
any
full
hole that
system.
has acid damage?
On the lower end of it, on where the acid damage is.
I can show you on the board a couple of spots where there's some of those. So, yeah, that's a great idea.
And if you replace the header pins, if you go through, it's very time consuming, but on the headers that go on it, you gotta have a little special tool that replace every one of those little, crimp on thing. You have to take them out. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the
The
trifericon.
wiring harness itself.
Oh, the
Yeah.
female connectors.
Yeah, some of those, you have to pop them out individually and crimp a new one on.
Yeah.
Actually, I find a dental tool is the best thing to use for that. Got this right here. Bought it from Harbor Freight. Thing was $1. This thing works wonders. Slip it in the back of the pin and just pull it out. Boom, pull it out. Boom, pull it out. Now, replacing them is a lot harder than cleaning them. If you replace them, you got to have a special crimping device, crimping tool for those specific pins. What I would do is just clean them. I mean, unless it's really bad, because they clean up real nice. And then pop them back in there, and you're good to go.
What kind of tool is that, you say?
This is a dental tool.
Dental.
Dental tool.
Yeah, it's a dental probe. Yeah.
It's sharp, so
Secondary service he offers.
exactly. Pull your molars for you while I work on your pinball
Yeah.
machine. That's exactly right.
I recently picked up an MPU, a system with an MPU like that, and it had been repaired by somebody else, and they put the battery back on the board, a fresh battery. And one of the things that first time I'd ever seen it, it looked like he had covered the board with clear nail polish. Have you ever heard of anybody doing that?
Yeah, you can do that, but that's not helping anything. If it still has battery corrosion, it's going to grow from the inside out.
It looked like it had been sanded, but
Okay.
then he apparently sealed it with clear nail polish.
Yeah, it's not necessary to seal it, but I don't know what the benefit would be. I would pull that battery off, and if you want a battery, just put you a remote, mount it in the bottom of your cabinet, and run 2 wires up to your board, and then it has all that wire to travel before it ever gets to your board again. The best thing is the charging capacitor. I mean, that's the best thing.
But you can get the little 3 1.5 volts, the double A's, and hook them into these boards just like you can the WPCs as a remote battery pack.
Yes, but you have to put a diode in there.
Oh, right. So
Blocking
so
diode.
it doesn't charge it up.
Exactly, so it doesn't run off of the batteries. Anything else? What else can we talk about?
Are you gonna talk about the flipper on how to actually swap that out and replace it?
Sure. The only thing you have to be careful about here is that you hook the wires up to the right side of the diode. Okay, you got a high voltage side, so one lead goes to the high voltage side and one goes to the middle. And then you have your external grounding source for your switch or whatever. You know about diodes. Diodes have a little band on them. That way, current can only go one direction. See that little band right here? Okay, this is a diode. This right here. Okay. See that little band on there? That means nothing can go this direction. Okay? It can only travel this direction. This would be your end-stroke switch. This would be your power lead. And this would be the ground that leads back to your switch matrix. Or switch or whatever, your flipper coil, or your flipper switch. And it's just 2 wires. It's unsoldered back in. You wouldn't have to mess with this if you're not replacing the coil. All you'd have to change out of these 2 wires right here, and it doesn't matter what side they go on.
So you recommend replacing the coil for every game or just every week?
No, I recommend replacing the EOS switch on every game. Whether it's, I mean, look how burnt that is. I mean, it's pitted. You could sand it down, but it's only going to last, as long as probably 5 games, and then you're going to be right back where you're at. So you replace this. They cost $1.25, I think, from Marco, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's just 2 solders. Boom, boom, done. Something else to consider on your coils is the stop. These stops are special, so you have to have the right one for your game, and that keeps chattering from happening. Da, 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 da. So replace those if need be.
Why are they special?
Because they have a magnet in them, and basically it allows the coil to pull back and hold without having a chatter. If you put the wrong one, some of them are, I don't know what the technical terms are, but they're different for each type of game. If you put the wrong one in there, it's still going to chatter. Doesn't matter. And if it's wore out, it's going to chatter. So you need to replace those. And those aren't cheap too. They don't go out too often, but they do get slammed after time. It depends on how old some of these games we're working on are 25, 30 years old. You can't put a EM in a electronic game. It won't work. Okay? Why? I can't answer. He might know.
Not a clue. I know it'll mushroom out and it'll make it hard to pull the coil off.
That's exactly right. They'll mushroom out. They'll get dirty. They'll get ridges on them where the coil will stick in there and it won't come out. All kinds of different things. All right, so I'm thinking about sanding this down and treating it also. But the main thing to take away from this is that the acid travels up the traces. So look closely at all of your chips and make sure that you've got all the acid out. And like I said before, like down in this corner right here, you can see where the silk screen's lifting up. The minute you hit that with sandpaper, it's gone. So if you take those components out, you got to remember where they go. All Bally books have a diagram. Everybody knows how to read a diagram? Pretty simple.
Also take a picture before you start messing.
You could do that too.
Yeah.
You can take a picture. Yeah, that's
Good
right.
idea.
This is the age of technology, man. Smartphones for everybody. So, what else? Anything else you guys want me to cover?
I'm gonna say one more thing about the 35. I keep hijacking your presentation.
No.
Apologize.
All information's good.
I don't know his real name. The 2-bit guy down in Austin. You probably know his name. He makes this device called a fix-it board.
Right.
For those things, and they're relatively inexpensive, like about $80. Plugs into the top header pin that's
Right here.
unused.
Plugs
And
right here.
when you're looking at repairing a board or diagnosing it versus a $250 new replacement, that little thing you put on there takes over, like it's got all the game ROMs on it, the
Right.
big switch selectable, the RAM, the 2 RAM chip, it has all kinds of, so you can, a lot of these that are dead, if you don't want to invest the time, you can take that thing, pop it on it, and you're good to
And
go.
you're good to go. It
Usually-
bypasses all the bottom chips and the reset circuit and all of that. So you can, yeah, I'm familiar with those too. My theory, or my,
Seems like a Band-Aid.
yeah, exactly. It's a Band-Aid.
It's great for diagnosing, but in a pinch you could use it as a permanent solution if you wanted to.
The great thing about pinballs today is that they reproduce all the boards for just about any game. $200 in a $1,200 game just doesn't seem like a whole lot of money to me. If you want it to be robust, you want it to, go trouble-free, I would abandon this. I wouldn't even put this in my game.
When would you recommend as far as the best MPU board for say?
Well, the ultimate MPU, I've had, I probably have 27 games with that in it, and I've never had a problem with it.
That's the All-Tech one?
Yeah, Ultimate. Ultimate MPU. You can select, I think it's from 64 games or 200 games or whatever it is. They even have 8-ball deluxe, baby pack. You can use it for just about any Bally game. Now for Williams, what's that guy's name? I think of his name, but he has a board too that combines the MPU and the driver board into one game, one board, so that you get rid of the interconnect board problem, because those interconnects on
Yeah, they're terrible.
System 7s, 6s, I mean those things are ridiculous. And you can have a working game. I have a Jungle Lord, for instance, that has the original board set in it, and it seems like every 6 months I lose a 6821 chip because of that thing is shorting out in there. And those chips don't like that. And it's, so I need to buy one of those myself. But Jungle Lord, I mean, who cares about Jungle Lord? Anything else? What else you got? Go ahead.
I just bought a Hocus Pocus EM. I'm a beginner.
Okay.
What should I look at when I go home and whatever? Right.
Well, I could do a whole seminar on EMs. I specialize in EM repair. I'm probably one of the only guys in Houston that will actually give you a warranty with your EM repair. Basically, when I tackle an EM, there's 4 sections to an EM. You have the relay board, you have the play field, you have the score reels, and then you have the top of the play field. If you've never worked on one, I don't suggest you start now. Maybe next year I can do an EM presentation. The biggest problem with people that work on EM machines is they start adjusting stuff that doesn't need to be adjusted. Those contacts are very sensitive. You're talking 1/16 of an inch out of, plus or minus, and it won't work. Dirty contacts is another problem that I see a lot, and people get in there and they start filing them down, and they take that gold finish off, and then it's pitting, and it'll never work again.
Then how shall I clean it without screwing?
I would use a business card. I'd go buy me a box of business cards, and that's what I would use.
Okay.
A little cleaner. I don't particularly like to use, don't ever use this right here, contact cleaner. It says look electronic. It doesn't say EM. You put this in your game, and I guarantee you're going to have fire.
No WD-40.
Carburetor cleaner.
WD-40 is okay in moderation.
Yeah.
You want to use your WD-40 rebuilding your stepper units. Stepper units are real easy to take apart. They look complicated, but they're real simple. Draw you a little diagram, take the springs off, remember how everything goes back together, pull them apart, because everything that's inside of that thing has been there for 25, 30 years, and it's plastic, basically. So you got to get in there and work it out, or the game will never work. A couple of things that you always see when you first turn a game on, There's 2 reasons that's going on. 1, the score reels aren't resetting, or 2, there's something on. The greatest thing is I go over to a person's house and they told me on the phone that, the game just goes da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It won't reset. And I say, okay, but you were playing it correctly? Oh yeah, we've been playing it. I go over there and there's rubbers that have melted to the playfield, and contacts on the playfield, they're all shorted together. And I go, well, when was the last time you played this? 20 years ago. I said, well, it's going to need a total over. But the contacts that are on the playfield will cause the score reels to run, because basically it's just scoring. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's one of the big problems with those games. You got to get all the playfield contacts open. There's a set of contacts on every reel that needs to be open when it's in the 0 position. Stay away from contact cleaner. And look for blown fuses. These the greatest thing about EM machines are, they are the most well-built machines that I've ever seen. You can do some minor adjustments to them, do some cleaning, some maintenance, and boom, that thing will fire up and run like it was brand new the day it came off the assembly line. But of course, if somebody's gotten in there and messed with it, then it's a whole other story. And I get those stories all the time too.
Also,
I was in there and
unsoldered wires too. I run into some where the wires have come unsoldered.
Yes, a lot of times after hot, cold, the solder will just pop off the end of a contact. So that's something else to look for.
Then figure out where to put it. That's fine.
Exactly. First thing I do when I work on an EM machine is I test every coil. I have a voltage regulator, and I crank it down to 27 volts, and I go through and I test every single variac. It's a voltage variac, and I test every single coil before I even turn the game on, and that at least tells me that there's not a burnt coil somewhere, and that's why it's not reset. So, yeah, I could do a whole seminar on EM machines, but if you want, come over to the booth and catch me. I'll help you out, no problem. What else you got? Anybody? Nothing. Crickets.
I've got a weird problem. I've got a whodunit machine, and when I let go of the flippers, there's a noticeable delay before they go down, and I have not been able to figure out what's causing that.
Could be the shunt field on the coil is holding it.
You got this, is there a spring? Is there a spring between on my Williams, I had a spring break the other day on the flipper. Kind of similar to that, where you got your spring in between.
Right.
Or just
Field.
a sprung.
I don't know if that game has the spring, but it should have.
It does have a spring. I don't think
It's probably on the outside though.
I don't think the springs are fine on it. I even replaced one of the springs, and it still did it.
My guess is check the stop. The stop, if it's gummed up, I've actually seen it hold a coil or hold the flipper up in the upright position, and the ball has to come down and hit it. So I would check that.
I think I replaced the coil sleeves and everything. I used some silicone spray and dried it really well.
Can't use anything on
I know
coil sleeve.
I know normally it's supposed to be completely dry, but I would like clean it with it and then wipe it down.
Okay, yeah, I mean if you get it clean, you're fine.
I think this game has optos for the flipper switch. I'm wondering if there's some possibility that it could be in the optos.
If you have a misaligned, typically you only see that like on Twilight Zone where they have two flippers, and the top one hangs on because
It is odd. I've just never
the
seen
bottom.
It's like really difficult to do a drop catch on the machine because when you let go of the flipper,
Right.
it varies the time when it goes down.
I actually had a machine that had the flipper bushing to the plate field and had a pressure. There's just no pressure, sometimes it's like
I would check the end of the plunger too. If it's got any rigid on it, it's just in there grinding. Also, check to see if it's in a bind. This sleeve right here, if it's cracked, is that what you're talking about? This sleeve right here? If it's cracked at all, it'll put your flipper in a bind because you got something pulling on it, and then you got something pushing on it. I would replace that.
John, I had one too when I did a rebuild kit.
Mm-hmm.
When I had it disassembled, everything was fine, real loose. When I clamped it down, it's like the plastic was a little too tall.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to take a file and just shave off probably a 16th, 18th.
Yeah,
of
we
an
can go
inch.
through the hole whenever
Right,
we
it
mounted it.
would just cause enough to create a bind, but if you took everything loose, everything felt great. Once you
Right.
tightened it down, you could feel, by hand that there was
Feel it
something
binding.
it right. And it was just, I just had to take that plastic and just shave just a little bit off.
Yeah, this right here.
Because a lot of that is reproduction,
Exactly. They're good, but they're
Yeah, it's
they're
not-
in
it's
for
not
mass
always perfect.
production. What else? Come on, something challenging, really challenging, like turn the game on and it says, "Get the hell away from me." Nothing.
We've got a couple of women like that.
Oh, there you go. I don't know if I can help you with that, bro. I could try.
John, do you have a website or anything that we?
No, I don't have a website, but I can give you guys some cards if you want to call me. You got any problems? You can reach me on the HAAG site too. You know,
Sure.
everybody's part of that. Just send me a message, and I'll get a hold of you, get a card or two. I do a lot with old arcades too, so anything that's electromechanical, slot machines, jukeboxes. Of course, I rebuild all kinds of jukeboxes. I got 2 out there, just sold 1.
I've got a nice pachinko machine with an intermittent video screen.
I don't do pachinko. And the only reason is because it's really not worth you paying me to come out there and fix it. And a lot of those parts aren't available. Those are just one-time pops and, you know, throw away. Go buy another one. Especially those little slot machines. You see those little Chinese slot machines running around? Same drill. Don't work on those either. It's just not cost effective. It's not saying I'm expensive. It's just time and, you know, finding parts for that stuff is not available. That's exactly right. You can't buy parts. Now, if it's an IGT or something like that, I do work on those. And of course, the vintage mechanicals, I do all those too. Any other questions not pertaining to pinball? Yes, I'm married. I've been married for 21 years. Thank you very much. I've survived.
1990?
1991, actually. Yeah, it'll be 21 years this August, so next August. So it seems like 21 years.